Today is Wednesday, August 5th, 2015, and today's rant will be on the Center for Medical Progress. Now, the Center for Medical Progress has been the one who has been behind the Planned Parenthood videos where they're trying to claim that the Planned Parenthood is selling body parts. And I have said in many previous rants, I don't see a signed contract between them and Planned Parenthood describing pricing and an agreed upon pricing or a work order or an invoice or anything like that. But what I'd like to do, and it's taken me a long while to think about this, let's go back 2 or 3 years, because the Center for Medical Progress has had a website up. I believe the website is down. It was only up for a couple months. There are some organizations behind that. They had indicated that there are some videos that were taken earlier this year, but some were taken as long ago as 2 years ago. So let's go back 2 or 3 years. And before there was a Center for Medical Progress, there were a number of, let's just say, very strong anti-abortion organizations that must have gotten together, said we want to do something like James O'Keefe. We want to really do a gotcha thing. And we need to figure out how we can really infiltrate them so that this can come about. And then I'd like to talk a little bit later, possibly, on what it might actually come out, what the outcome will be and why they're really doing it. So they must have agreed that we have to infiltrate them more. How can we infiltrate them more? We have to have some sham companies. We have to establish sham companies. How do we establish sham companies? Well, they got their lawyers involved. Their lawyers said, well, this is how you establish this sham company in this particular jurisdiction, let's say the state of California. So they had to find some people, and of course they're always capable of finding people who are willing to die for the cause. Obviously they weren't willing to die, they weren't dying for the cause, but possible incarceration, because they were going to be committing credit card fraud, they were going to be deceitful, they were going to be committing fraud in general, they were going to commit perjury, etc., to get the type of, let's just say, incorporation that would allow them to contact Planned Parenthood, so that they could have meetings with Planned Parenthood where they could discuss whether or not Planned Parenthood would be willing to sell them fetal tissue for medical research. All of that had to take place. So there had to been, and remember, who else was involved in that? That was, I believe, Jenny Thomas in one of her organization, or one of her organizations. Remember, she is the wife of Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice. But there had to have been a lot of things that went on. They had to pick the right people to be part of the sham organizations. They probably had to do a lot of training of them so that they could gain the people's trust in terms of those at Planned Parenthood, so they could get them to open up. Remember, some of those conversations took place at lunch. Could you imagine what would happen if some organization wanted to film underhanded what cops talk about when they're on their job, and what their true feelings were? Imagine taking them to lunch and maybe them opening up about what their job is like. But I digress. So, and there had to be financial backing. So this Center for Medical Progress had to have financial backing. So a lot of money had to go into this thing. They had to have articles in incorporation. They had to have lawyers looking at to make sure that everything was right. They had to find the right people. They had to train the right people. They had to figure out how they were going to set it up, what type of classification they were going to be as an organization. All of this had to go on, and then had to work the cameras, had to get all that. Lots and lots and lots of planning had to go on to establish all of this by a number of very, very, very right-wing organizations and basically anti-abortion organizations. So let's fast forward to right now. On Monday, the Senate could not bring up to a vote defunding Planned Parenthood. They had enough to pass a vote if it had actually come about. I believe it was 53 to 40 something. But because the Democrats could filibuster, it had to reach the 60 vote level. Now, the Republicans have indicated they are going to make this an issue when not the debt ceiling has to be raised, but at the end of the fiscal year for the government, which is September 30th coming up. The fiscal year technically ends September 30th. The new fiscal year starts the next day. And that they could even hold out for a shutdown of the government. And the last time they shut it down in 2013, everyone said it was the Republicans' fault. They folded. Obama looked good, but then the next year the Republicans came in. But on this particular thing, 2 or 3 months ago, this wasn't part of the Republican agenda whatsoever. So these people who were putting this whole thing together were willing to lie, willing to commit fraud, willing to commit perjury, willing to use a lot of money to do all this underhanded stuff. And they needed to bring it up at the right time. And obviously this was the right time. So, their marketing skills, or their sense of timing was absolutely perfect on this. So 2 months ago, this was not something that any Republican running for office, any Republican running for president probably would have brought up as an issue. But it became an issue, and it may shut down the government. Now remember, 15 Republicans have clearly indicated to John Boehner that they will not support any government resolution to continue funding for the government starting October 1st. They will not vote for that at all if any of it includes any funding for Planned Parenthood at all. And remember, John Boehner does not want to pass anything unless it's can only pass with Republican votes, meaning he does not want to have to get any Democratic votes that will allow it to pass, meaning that it wouldn't pass with Republican. You add a couple Democratic votes, it'll pass. He doesn't want that. So, and of course, there are 4 senators who are running for president, current senators. So this could be a big gobbledygook type of thing coming on, a lot. And of course, Mitch McConnell and Boehner, they don't want to shut down the government because they want to act like they're big boys, that they can run a government. So we have a very small group of people who possibly could shut down the government over $500 million, which is minuscule in terms of what the federal government is. And the people who are possibly shutting down the government, getting the government shut down, the Center for Medical Progress, probably only had a couple $1 million to put this whole thing together to get all of this possibly shut down. Incredible thing. Now, I am sure that these people for Center of American Progress think that Planned Parenthood is the boogie person, that we have to shut it down because of abortion, everything. Abortion trumps everything. And we have to save the babies and all this other stuff. But let's remember, if Planned Parenthood is shut down and more women get pregnant because of it, because they couldn't get the health services that they need, they couldn't get the oral contraceptives that they need or other types of contraceptives that they need, then there could actually be even more abortions. I believe Nicholas Kristof pointed that out in the New York Times. And it does get complicated. And the Republicans are saying, well, all kinds of these other health organizations can do it very easily. And that's not true at all, because a lot of these health organizations are already at the limit of what they can handle. So it could get very, very dirty. But the other part of it is it's about it to me that's so disconcerting is that all of these Republicans in Congress, they're smart people. They know that not a single penny of federal money that goes to Planned Parenthood pays for abortion. And so they know that this is, a bullshit argument. They know that. But they know that their clientele, their constituents, will believe anything they say. And so they're bringing up that they're heavily involved in abortion and the federal government pays for it, which they don't. But it gets to the next narrative of that, which is if they want to shut down Planned Parenthood, they really want to shut down access for poor women. 97% of their services are for poor women and men to get health services. And most of that is for poor women, which then goes into that they really want to hurt or want to hold back poor women from exercising, let's just say, control of their bodies, which I think is an egregious position. And remember, in terms of controlling the narrative, which they are. They've signed on to it. The right wing has signed on to it. Talk radio has signed on to it. And the big kahuna, Billy O'Reilly, has signed on to it. And the question is, when Billy has signed on to it, can there actually, what's going to happen at that particular point in time? Because he's been hammering about this. He hasn't said anything that's true, but he's been hammering about this. And I'd hate to see the federal government being shut down because some very, very far right-wing anti-abortion group who've put together $2 million and have committed possibly fraud, perjury, etc., can shut down the federal government.